Okay, we are on to my manure spreader project. I'm hoping next weekend to be spreading, so I really don't have a whole lot I need to do. It was just the nickel and dime shit that popped up when I was using it last summer. Had that issue with the web chain trying to wrap around the drive sprockets, and after got to looking, the drive sprockets are the teeth are washed out on the side that it's pulling off of. The ideal thing to the ideal thing to do would be to find some new sprockets to put on there. I do have a possible lead on something like that. There's an Amish guy down here by Topeka, Indiana. Actually, I think he's Mennonite, but either way, he kind of specializes in redoing new idea manure spreaders, and I think he does some other brands too. I think when I was down there, I got some plow parts off of him one time, and I think when I was down there, he had a bunch of new ideas. I think there was an International sitting there all redone. But on the new idea stuff, he has actually done so many of them that he has castings remade, and I was gonna see if he had sprockets. But if couldn't come up with new sprockets, the next best thing to do would be to take them off and flip-flop them, put that one over here and this one over there. That way they're flipped over and you're pulling off of the new side of the tooth. However, the fact that the set screws on those, the heads are, they started off as square head set screws, and now the heads are rusted round, and the fact that they have been on there since, the mid-50s and probably never been touched. Chances are the only way those sprockets are coming off of that shaft is in two pieces. My guess is you're going to have to split them to get them off of there. If you could get the shaft and everything out and get them in a press and then get a little heat on them and actually have a shop press and press them off, you'd probably get it. But in order to get the shaft out, you got to have the sprockets out. So easy thing to do just gonna be to split them, get the shaft out, clean the shaft up, get different sprockets, put sprockets on, and put it all back together. But for now, I'm just gonna break the chain and take a grinder and touch up the teeth and get rid of that little bit of a hook that they got going, and see if that takes care of the problem. So we got to do that. I have to, well, you can't really see it without taking the guard off. The drive paw in there that ratchets the web rearward had two dog ears on it that your return spring's hooked to. And when I got it, anybody that was here when I was redoing this thing, one of the dog ears when I got it was bent around up against the paw, and I just took a wrench and straightened it back out and put a spring on it. Well, apparently when I straightened it back out, I caused a stress fracture, and it broke one of the ears off, and the ear and the spring disappeared. So I'm gonna have to, it's just a stamped piece of metal. Well, that's actually two formed pieces in L shapes, mirror images of each other, and then they spot welded them together, and that was how they formed it. So shouldn't be too hard to just make up or get it off, trace out a pattern on a piece of steel, and weld another ear on it, and you'll never know the difference. So got to do the sprockets, that drive dog. Oh, okay. That bar's got a little, I was looking at it, it's like, why is that link up? That bar's got a little bit of a twist in it. That's the one that, got ripped off when I wadded the chain up. But it'll be fine. It's pulling straight, it's just a little so, and the chain could be a little stiff from sitting too, although normally that style of link doesn't necessarily get stiff. But anyway, got those two things to do. And then I want to put the front two U-joints are getting kind of, they got some play in them. And all three U-joints are probably damn near the same age. So I want to put 3 new U-joints in it. And I want to pull the slip clutch apart and free it up and put new friction discs in it. That way, if for some reason the web chain gets wadded up again, rather than wadding itself up and breaking links and whatnot, it'll just jam and then start slipping the clutch rather than breaking shit. So those are the 3 things I got going. Shouldn't take too long, and then basically my goal for today is get those 2 things back there taken care of and get drive shaft and clutch tore apart, so that tomorrow I can go get new universals and new clutch plates, because I should be able to go up to the Deere dealer and get new friction discs, because I ordered some. You could still buy them through Agco. New Idea part number still good, because I got them through Agco for that New Idea brush hog we got. And Randy, the guy at the parts counter there at Mayboss, said it's a good number because New Idea basically used the same friction disc on everything for eons. But when I got them, they came in an A&I parts bag. John Deere owns A&I, so the Deere dealer is an A&I dealer. The bad part is I forgot to save the bag to keep the part number off of it, so I'm going to have to take a disc up there and we'll have to try to match it up. So, and if I can't get it up there, I'll just find the part number and call Agco and get some coming. So, but anyway, that's where we're at. So first things first, I'm going to have to bust this web chain and get it pulled back so we can get to the sprocket. And God, I hate breaking this chain. It's not so bad when it's got some wear to it, but when it's brand new like this, oh, it beats apart hard. So I'm gonna go get my chain tool. Okay, so I got the chain broke. I beat on it with a hammer for about 5 minutes and couldn't get a link to move. So I went digging through our stuff and think I found a lot better way to do it. So we have this bit for our air hammer. Pretty sure it's actually for cutting sheet metal, but it's got this V formed in it, so you can get your chain tool hooked down there and get the chain bent around so that your slots line up to drive your links apart, and then you can go right up against the hook on the link with that tool and beat the crap out of it with an air hammer, and it drives it right apart. A lot easier than trying to beat it out with a hammer, tell you what. But with that being said, now just need to get a grinder, and if you look at the tooth profile, you can see this is the original side of the tooth. It's actually rounded like that, and this one's got a hook in it. So I'm gonna have to, and I don't have a whole lot of meat to play with because you don't want to take too much off, but I'm gonna have to try to knock some of this off so that when the chain comes around and it's pulled taut, it'll actually let go of it instead of trying to hang on and drag it around. And that's what bent that, and that was, it was not letting go of the chain and dragging it around and pulling the crossbars up into here. So, and then on this side was the side that actually broke a link and proceeded to put like 4 wraps all the way around the sprocket, which is what did all this. So, but I bought a manure spreader for 40 bucks out of a junkyard that hadn't run in God knows how long. So the fact that it did as good as it did, I can't knock it. Feels like it's got most of the catch out of it. You can just tell by the way these sprockets are wore, this old girl moved a lot of shit in her day. Now I need to go. There we go. See, that one, see if I can get you up here. That one's bad. Like, that one's actually, I don't know how well it's showing up on camera. That one's actually got a legit, like, hook cut into it. Toasty. Okay, I got all the sprockets dressed up and the web chains put back together. So hopefully that solves that problem. Well, unfortunately, the only way to find out is to run it. Can't be any worse than it was. Now they're at least got a smooth transition to let go of the chain. So anyhow, so my next deal is this guy. This is what I was talking about. This is supposed to be a mirror image. That there's supposed to be another one of these over here, and it broke. So got to pull this off real quick, which is just this bolt here, and undo the spring that's still there. Hopefully, because I had to make all the springs for this because I couldn't find any that were the right size. It seems like I still had, because I think what I ended up buying was a screen door spring, and it was really damn long, and I just cut a bunch of pieces out of it, and I think I still have some of it. We got a box of different menagerie of springs, and I think I threw it in there, so hopefully I do. Otherwise I gotta run to the hardware store where I got it and see if I can find another one like it. But anyway, I pull this bolt out. Actually, because of the way this works, I've actually got to undo this bolt and pull this plate off, because where it is, that bolt can't go that way because of the frame. So yeah, pull that apart real quick and we'll see what we can find for a piece of steel. And I think when I weld them back together, I'm going to cut some little tiny triangular gussets to put in here, because there's plenty of room. It ain't gonna hurt nothing, and kind of put something in there to reinforce them, that way it doesn't happen again. So I'll get this part real quick and we'll come back to you. Okay, so I got the feed dog off, and once I got it off and cleaned it up, it needs a little bit more work. I mean, it's not terrible, but it needs a little bit more work than just putting this ear back on. I noticed apparently these were the parts they let the apprentices weld together, because that weld right there never even made contact between the two pieces of steel. He just welded the actual dog itself. So I'm gonna lay a bead of weld in there. I mean, it lasted, well, that spreader, early 50s, so we're what, 70 years old on that spreader, give or take. So I mean, it lasted this long, but I'm still gonna, just since I got it off to make me feel better about it, I'm gonna lay a weld in there so that it's decent. Mind you, also, this would have all been done with a stick welder, so very well could have had some slag laying in there that made it look like a weld, but still, probably an apprentice welding this together. I'm gonna weld that. I noticed this weld, the actual good weld on this side, it's kind of hard to see since I cleaned it up, but there's a crack right here. So I'm going to lay a bead in there. And then while I got it off, I'm probably going to lay some weld in here and build this up a little bit and square it back off. Just because I got it off, might as well. So, and I've got my new ear traced out, and there's the hole. So to make it easier, we're going to put the hole in first since you got a bigger piece to get a hold of. That bit's kind of dull. The hardest thing on drill bits is hand drilling. You will screw up more drill bits hand drilling than you ever will in a drill press or a mill or anything like that. So Dad's actually got two sets of drills now. One's dedicated for the hand drill and one's dedicated for the mill. That way we got good sets for to run in the mill. Here's our little baby chamfer bit. Guy I used to work with at Bear, name was Dusty. He was my second in command when I worked there. He and I were always put together. He was a millwright growing up. He was probably, I think he was just a touch younger than my dad, but he was still over. I think he was only a couple years younger than Dad, so he was still mid-50s. But he actually helped build the plant that I worked at, and then in later years he wanted to get off the road, so he just got a job working at Bayer, or Monsanto at the time. But anyway, he said in the millwright business, the name for a cutoff wheel on a grinder, that's a suicide saw. That always made me laugh. Toasty. Now we are just going to, because we've already got some nice corners here, I'm going to get a scribe and we're going to mark a couple little, just some little, nothing too obnoxious. We'll go just so they both end up the same size. Let's mark, let's say, we'll come back 3/8. That'll make a nice little gusset. And we'll cut these little guys off, and then we'll weld them in there to kind of give them some backup, because even this guy, if you look at it, is sagging a little bit. So, which if it was just spring tension on it, it would be fine, but probably the fact that this is a ratchet, so it's always going like this, over time probably just, you know, walks that back. So if we put just a little something in there to help it out. Granted, it's not like I'm going to go out and use this thing every day like it was when it was new, but we're here, we might as well make it a little better. Close the back door, I'm getting a breeze. That's better. That's dirty. Like, really dirty. I hate trying to lay wire weld in on top of old stick weld because it just never seems to look decent. Because stick weld, especially in a production situation like that, like pipeline stick welding, completely different than like production stick welding and shit like this, where it's just slapping stuff together. It just never seems to look decent when you're, because it just always seems to be dirty. But it's better than it was. Should be able to grind that back out flat. Alright, there's that. God, them welds are ugly, but that metal was dirty. I cleaned it up the best I could before I started welding, but you can't get into them nooks and crannies. The only thing that probably would have made it weld better is if I'd have had it sandblasted first, but well. Nobody will see it under the guard, and it ain't gonna fall apart, I can guarantee you that. So, put this back together and see if I can find my spring material so we can make the other spring and put it back right. I even got lucky and found my hunk of spring I was using. So now we just gotta make this look like this. Come on, damn you. Bending springs is always a good time. Not too bad for hand bending. I tried this side, the short side was easy, the side with the big hook, because that's actually a compound bend. There's two different ones in it, because you got to curl the wrap into the center and then make this piece. Well, you got to turn it to the center and then twist it to get everything straightened out. And that was kind of a bitch, because I remembered once I got going, this one I didn't make both ends, but this is the original hook that was bent on the spring, and I just cut a piece off and made this side, so having to make both sides was interesting. And I ended up cutting this one, I think, 2 spirals long, or longer than it needed to be, and bending everything up and then trimming off the excess. It was interesting. Okay, I got the back one hooked back up. That's the hard one because you can't see what the hell you're doing. Now, if I can get you to set, will it balance there? Nope. Balance here. Yep. Can you see? No. Let go. Here. Now you can see. Beautiful. So now, you can put the cover back on, and we can move on to power takeoff shaft. Okay, we're ready to pull the drive shaft apart. I already got my chain guards out the way. So, we pull this pin here, and that'll let the short shaft slide out. And then I think we'll have to see how this is put together. I think if I undo these guys, disassemble the clutch, because this and the sprocket are the same piece. So we'll have to see. But I also noticed that the springs on this clutch are maxed out. They're not supposed to be that tight. So we'll have to get the book and figure out what the actual spring tension is supposed to be. Because that clutch disc, it looks like it's been falling apart. So my guess is the clutch disc started falling apart, and rather than just get new clutch discs for it, they decided, well, hell, we'll just crank the bolts down so the slip clutch can't slip no more, and the rest was history. So now, what do you suppose the odds are? Oh yeah. It's moving. Okay, now we can pull the slip clutch apart. Don't know if this thing will rattle them apart or if I'm going to need a big impact. Oh, like nothing. It's always impressive when 50, 60, 70-year-old hardware comes apart like nothing. And then you got bolts and stuff that are, you know, a year or two old, been exposed to the elements a little bit, and you got to torch them all apart because they're so corroded they just won't spin anymore. Now we will have to maybe we have to drive this or take this pin out. And then this guy will come, maybe. All in all, other than a little rust, that clutch surfaces don't really look all that bad. And in all honesty, the clutch discs don't look all that bad, but they've got some pitting and some rust embedded in them, and once that happens, they'll basically never grip right again. So you're better, I mean, they're like 11 or 12 bucks a piece. These things aren't shit. So, and then like this surface is actually like, it never slipped on that. Apparently that one friction disc embedded itself in the paint and never spun, because that one we can just clean up with a Scotch-Brite pad on the die grinder. This one we can probably chuck up in the lathe and spin it and clean it up with a Scotch-Brite pad. And that one, same thing. We could probably, don't even know if we got to spin that one, but nothing. The mating surfaces themselves, other than having some rust on them, really aren't in that bad a shape, so everything should clean up fairly decent. I doubt, just looking at it, that this woodruff key is going to move. Oh, I might get surprised here if I can get a bite on it. It doesn't really got to come out anyway, but it is somewhat loose, but it doesn't need to. All the work that we really need to do is not there, so that can just stay in there. So, get my parts organized here, and then we can knock the universal apart. Okay, all I got to do today is take one of these apart, so I got one to match up, because all three of them are the same. This guy here is actually on its way to coming apart, because the retainer clip it was kind of holding in it, but apparently it fell out somewhere when the shaft came off the trunnion, so I'm sure these things are going to be fun to get apart. already proving fun to get apart. Granted, those needle nose are getting a little rough. They're not quite square anymore. Okay, now the fun part, because the way they put the spinner tube on, I don't see how the hell you get it apart. It's almost like they assembled it, welded it together, and it is what it is, because it's not a slip, because since this shaft doesn't slip, this is the length, and it's got little ball bearings in there, and there's no like retainers or anything. It's all rolled into, and then they put the bearings in and slide it together and weld it together. So the the spinner tube is kind of in your way. Okay, I managed to get the yoke off the shaft. That was a challenge, because there's not actually enough room. Where the trunnions on this, or the pads where the trunnions press into, are so thick that you can't get one of your needle retainers pressed all the way out before the cross bottoms out on the yoke, so you're stuck there. So I had used the press to get it loose, and then we wow. Okay, it's moving. I used the press to get it loose, and then I had to get a little creative to get it the rest of the way. Okay, let's see if this works the same way it did on the other side. Okay, now we got both sides out as far as they'll go hitting on the cross. So here's where things get a little different, because it doesn't give you enough room to work the cross out. So we change heads, or if we change bits in the wear hammer here, and we get right down there on that guy. And drive him out. And then we flip it over and do the same thing. Now, that should have everything disengaged enough, and I can get a hold of one of them with a pair of pliers. And now, There we go. All right, there we go. That's our example one. So we can measure it up and get the replacements. The rest of them gonna come apart a lot easier because we ain't bothering trying to save them. We're cutting them out with a grinder. You go in, you slit it there, slit it there. You can pull the yoke out, slit it there, drive all your caps out, slap your new one back in, you're good to go. These are actually old enough they don't even got needles in them. They're literally just bushings. So get 3 crosses, 2 friction discs, and we'll be good to go. And look up what the actual spring tension is supposed to be on that slip clutch, so we actually set it right and we're not wadding crap up. So I guess we will, hopefully, if I can come up with all the parts, get her put back together tomorrow. So that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.